your supplies. Think about what is it that you're going to need. Are you going to need a whiteboard? You just need paper. Are some teachers were creative and got like the white shower curtain and we're writing on it, whatever it was, or a clear shower curtain, we're writing on it. Consider whatever supplies you think you need. Consider your environment. Like I was telling you, Ms. Marino decided to use her garage as her classroom. But another thing that we want you to consider is also consider what's around your environment. So if you have like all kinds of different things in the background, the kids are going to be worrying about like, oh, you know, Mr. Cal has whatever, her mini bar or whatever it is in the background, or animals, whatever it is.
That's distracting.
Anything that's distracting, try to consider just having nothing that's going to be distracting for them. The next thing that we mentioned was review your lesson plans. So yes, you had something on course, but remember, you kind of have to think about your pacing with it and thinking about what do I want to cover? What are the main skills or the main comprehension things that we're working on, or step-by-step math problems, word problems? What is it that I need? So that way we're just focusing on that. The next thing was consider your time. Again, we're trying to make sure that it's a interactive, engaging lesson, and we don't have that much time. Like we don't want too much time being wasted to where it's like 45 minutes long and you feel like you only taught like one thing. Yeah. And then lastly, make sure your technology is working. Restart is your friend, especially right now. We all have different types of computers, whether it's level 1, level 2, or whatever it may be. We need to make sure that your technology is working. I know sometimes internet goes out. At one point I had plumbing work happening in my house. I had to ask Don if I could come to main campus because I was like, I cannot work at my house right now. It's too loud. So just consider that, consider everything that's going on, and just try to figure out how to make it best for your environment.
One thing I want to say, I learned from experience. Christy had to remotely log in on my computer over online learning, not being at school. Sometimes the connectivity is an issue. But just remember each day before you're going to start recording videos or what have you to restart your computer. That was a big thing that I might have done it every other day or whatever, but with updates and so many of us using, the Kenner Discovery computers and doing different things, it's very important that you restart daily.
Anything else? Yes. Oh, and I mean, just time management and, just a few things. And of course, this will come up throughout our presentation, but just these are things to think about and just, just like you would do in the classroom. Like when you are preparing for an online lesson, you should very much have the same mindset that you do in the classroom, which we know this is not new information. We know that you know this, but as we kind of begin this year, and I don't know about you guys, but I feel like this year is starting in such a different way that I don't even know how to prepare and plan, that making sure that we're reminding ourselves of these things. And we say, I can do that. I can consider my environment. Like, we also need to keep in mind the environment, not only in the classroom, but at home for the students. As far as supplies, don't just consider your supplies, consider the supplies that the students are going to have on hand. Maybe in your directions, make sure that you let them know you need to have, construction papers and scissors and glue prepared for this activity, if it's going to be something different, before they sit down and do it, so that when they're like live with you, they're not having to run away and go get supplies. Or and then in terms of time management, I know that in, myself as being a full year virtual teacher, part of the things that we are discussing is that when we do live lessons or even recorded lessons, we're kind of aiming for like a 15 to 20 minute sweet spot. Of course, with younger children, your time may be less. You may be more like 10, 12 minutes at first. And then with some of our older students, like our 4th graders, maybe, you're teaching something and it may go over that minute by a few minutes, but really try to consolidate that and get that concise, because the amount of time that, that you want them to be on the computer with you in order to manage your time and do everything that you need to do, we need to be very, very smart about how we use our time. So, just being mindful of that, keeping that in the back of your mind as you're preparing, kind of thinking as those lessons that you're doing on the computer as your whole group lesson, what you would do to kind of open up the lesson and get them going, or for those primary teachers, that small group, when you have those kids for that 12 to 15 minutes, you want to make the most of that time. So that's what you're going to focus on in your lessons when you're building them.
Thank y'all. Okay, let's see. The next thing we have is a poll. So in this poll, we're asking the question, what do you think you need the most support in when it comes to your video lessons? Is it troubleshooting technology? Is it time management? Or is it conceptualizing your environment? I'll share my screen in about a minute or so. Okay, so let's see. We have, it looks like a lot of you were saying troubleshooting technology, conceptualizing your environment, and then time management.
Mhm.
So yeah, and those are the things that we definitely want to talk about. The wonderful thing that we have is, because we did a lot of like learn by trial and error this past go around, Christy has a lot of videos already up in the ed tech resources, which we can show you afterwards if you need that. Carrie has her Nearpod lesson going on today as well. So if I would encourage you to join that, and if you can't join it, she's going to record it as well, because I really want y'all to do that, because it's as you can see, it's engaging. There's more options too, so you can do all kinds of things with it. And then conceptualizing your environment, just trying to figure out, what do you need to do? Do you need to pick a room? Is it the kitchen? Is it a bathroom? I don't know. What is it going to be? I mean, we had a garage. Yeah.
I've seen, during that time, I mean, you're looking on Pinterest or everywhere you can to get ideas on how to be creative teaching at home. And I watched a video of a teacher standing in her bathtub, writing on her shower wall with a whiteboard so that she could demonstrate some sort of concept to her kids. And I thought, that is desperate in some respects, but also very creative to think of, how can I simulate me standing in front of a board doing work for my kids? So,
and just like Hillary said, doing online learning, being a mom, having kids, my garage happened to be the quiet space if I had to record a video or what have you, away from the kids, away from the playroom. So it can be a small area, just something that, like Raquel said, consider your environment and how you're going to present your lesson, and then go from there.
Another thing too, when it came to like considering your environment, we are going to be doing half days. So we're not sure what the other half day is supposed to be looking like. Yeah, that's time for you to meet with your team. That's time for you to, like, if you need to make your copies, if you're checking emails, whatever it may be, like, or contacting parents back and forth, whatever it may be. But that may also be a time where you're going to be more than likely maybe recording a lesson here and there, and you'll have your classroom to work on that. I know online teachers are trying to find spots for y'all, but that's one of the things that we may have to do, depending on the situation, to where we could have some pre-recorded lessons. Please feel free to, if you have any questions or anything you want to comment, you can definitely go ahead and do that, and share it on the box whenever y'all, you want to. And Ms. Bruno's, Aaron's keeping track of that. Okay, so that was just, what do you need to get started beforehand? So now we have the lesson itself. So one of the things we were mentioning was like considering the length. We were saying that attention span is about 10 to 12 minutes mini lessons. Plan out your lesson beforehand, have your materials and manipulatives out and ready. That was one of the things that it was, just have it ready to go right there with you, so you could just show them. And so you're not wasting, like, your time management is not where like you have to pause your video and then you have to go get your stuff. You can do that, but it's just so it's handy and it's rolling, because sometimes when you have to pause, it's like you forget your train of thought, or you forgot where you were, or where you're saying things that were, continuity wise, was that working for you? So just think about that. The next thing we're talking about was pausing and pacing during the lesson to make sure students are able to follow along. That was a big one, because I know, like, when Erin had her video with Heidi would pause when they were doing shapes, and Heidi asked the question as if she was live, and then she's like, "You are correct. The answer is 4 sides," or whatever it was. So she was doing it. So it allowed for that interactive, kind of like that little Blue's Clues thing, I guess. And that's very appropriate for a younger, K first, second. And I would say even third and fourth.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so definitely think about that. How could you do that to give them time to think? Or you even do a think aloud, read aloud, whatever it may be, to help them out with that. And then lastly, really be picky and choose your clear and concise language when discussing the topic, because we really want them to just know their vocabulary, understand what you're trying to say, and they're able to kind of be able to say it back, because we want them, and they can watch the videos multiple times as they want, but we want them to be able to remember what you're saying, and that way that they understand the words and what you're trying to say and communicate with that. I think that's very important for them, especially if they're with their parents, so they can try to tell their parents like, oh, Ms. Canali was talking about this, but I didn't understand when she was moving on and started to talk about, the 3D shapes. I understand 2D shapes, but she started introducing 3D shapes. Can you redo that? So that way they're understanding and knowing what the lesson is about, and they can get help from their facilitators at home.
Just a couple things, that the language, that concise language, which of course we all try to be very conscious of doing in the classroom. But when you're recording your lessons, I know I had to record things multiple times because I would listen to myself and say, well, that's a better way to say that, or, that's too wordy. Like I could say that in less words, or things like that. So, maybe if you're uncomfortable doing that, a good idea would be to just write down some bullet points on a piece of paper. Like, I want to make sure that I cover, these 3 things when I'm doing this lesson, or however that looks. Not a script, so to speak, but that just might be helpful because it did help me kind of getting rolling. And then as far as pausing and pacing during the lesson, so pausing it, like being very animated, like you would just be speaking to the class, and there's natural pauses where kids think. But then also when you're getting down into things, and I'm thinking of math lessons specifically, or some of our older students who may have longer texts to read, like if you post something up there and you just kind of want to show them that they need to read this paragraph, you could ask the kids, pause the video on this screen and read, and when you're done, click play, or pause, solve this math problem, on your paper or whatever, and then when you're finished, click play. And so if it's a pre-recorded lesson, that is also a way to kind of pause and allow for that pacing and giving the kids time in real time, so that they're able to kind of work as they were in the classroom.
Also, just to piggyback on what Ms. Canali just said, even though you're doing it online and virtually, you still have to explain your objective to the kids. Tell them what you're going to be learning about. Like she said with a list, whether you write it down or do a little bulleted list on whatever whiteboard or resource you're using.
Yeah.
Always introduce what the lesson's going to be about. Give a little brief summary of what they're going to do. And then don't forget, after your video lesson, to wrap up and tie back to what the objective was that you did for the day.
Yeah, and I think that definitely helps the students feel like they're kind of back in the classroom too, because that's what y'all do in the classroom. So we're just trying to keep that continuity as well, what you've already been doing in the classroom. So it's just now just online, it's virtual. Okay, so we have another activity here. This is more of an open-ended question, so we're gonna give you some time for that, but basically is, why do you think online lessons should be around 10 to 12 minutes long? And we'll give you a few minutes to do that.
Please type in your response and then submit.
Okay, y'all, I'm gonna share some of the things that y'all put on the screen. Let's see. Here's one from, let's see, it says, from Ms. Carol Wilson, it says, they should be 10 to 12 minutes long because children tend to allow their attention to wander after that, especially with distractions at home. I think that's so important because distractions at home definitely happens. You know, I mean, they're at home, so it could be their pets, or they could be their parents, or the mailman, or whatever. You know,
it's where they are most relaxed in a lot of situations, so they just kind of let it go.
Yeah,
you know?
And then Katie said a good one right here. She said, it's student attention span when it comes to, it's shorter online. It is. I don't know what it is, but she's not wrong about that. Like when they're online, it's like their attention span is like they can't get it together. So that's another thing that we really want to be thinking about. Who else is there? Oh, this is another one that Ms. Fury, that's a good point we're kind of talking about. She put that the person assisting them may need more time to stop and explain along the way also. Yes. So that's very important. Let's see if anybody else. Oh, here you go. Bonnie has something for kindergarten. Yeah, because you're trying to have them engaged and you're trying to cover objectives in a short amount of time. So they're going to need definitely time to process things.
And practice.
Yeah, to practice.
Because the online lesson is not the only opportunity the kids have to experience skills and standards. Like they're going to have to apply that knowledge in some way to practice in some way. So that's only one piece of the online learning puzzle in terms of reading, let's say. You know, they'll have to go do some work on their own too, to you know, as a way to show you that they're understanding. So it's
absolutely. Okay, so the next thing, let's talk a little bit about technology. Like I said, this is technically not like a technology thing per se, because there's many other things, and you could go with Christy, whatever it is. But one of the things that we're going to be using is Screencastify. I know that if you download certain apps like Flipgrid on your phone or whatever it is, and you're using that, you could do that too. But Screencastify is a good way to record yourself. So if you have your computer and you feel brave enough, we're going to add it as an extension. Do you see what I have right here? That's an extension, that little arrow looking pink little arrow thing. We're going to add it as an extension right now. I already have it, but I'm just going to show you how you would do it.
And this, I just want to say that if I'm not mistaken, school purchased the paid version of Screencastify, and it was not cheap from what I understand.
Yes.
And so it's something that administration from the top down is highly encouraging us to use as our recording platform, because they have invested in it, and because it has had some upgrades and things changed since the spring, and it is able to do a lot for us in terms of that. So,
and it's already tied to our Google account, so when you do sign up, it automatically ties together to the upgraded version that school purchased.
Right. Even if you were already in it previously.
Exactly.
It'll connect.
Correct. Okay, so if you're brave enough, on your Chrome, not like on Internet Explorer or Firefox or anything like that, or Safari, like on your computer that you're using, go ahead and click a new tab and just search Screencastify extension for Chrome. And the Chrome store pops up. The chrome.google.com pops up. And this will pop up because it's the little one that you want. Mine says remove from Chrome because I already have it, but you would have something that would say add Chrome, whatever it is. Okay, so then once you do that, it downloads whatever it is, and then it'll give you this nice little icon. Like everything else, after you download something or whatever it is, and you may want to work on whatever you want to work on, save whatever you may need to save, but I would suggest restart, just because that's how things are. I would just suggest to restart after you download it and you save everything else. But that's what they were talking about. It works with Google Drive and it runs offline. So that's really good as an option, but I like the Google Drive component. It does take a little while because it has to download to it because it's auto saving to it. And it has like where you can edit things and whatever it is that you need for it. But I do like that it automatically goes to your Google Drive. Anybody else have anything for that?
And also another thing, I had a question for Christy. when you record something on Screencastify and you know, it's done and saved, it automatically is saved to your drive as well.
Mhm.
So you don't have to worry about like to resource it, or if you want to go back and add it to another lesson, it's automatically saved to your drive.
Yeah, and in Screencastify, it holds all your recordings, you know,
Yes.
from the past, so you can
Go back and reference
go
them.
back and reference
Yes.
them.
Okay. Any questions on that? We're good for that?
Good question.
Okay. Okay, so one of the things that we were talking about was like consider having a whiteboard on your computer screen when you're presenting your screen, or have some type of setup where your students could follow along. So you can Google search that. You could just literally search like whiteboard if you wanted to, or just,
Show them Screencastify.
Well, it's not there. Not yet.
yeah, it's not, Screencastify will have that option, I believe.
Flipgrid has one.
Flipgrid has one. I did a lot of stuff on Reading A to Z, and when you do like the projectable option, it you can write on it, and so that's another thing that you can do.
There's also another one, and forgive me because I don't have it right here, and I will research it and make sure and maybe put it into this presentation later. But it's like AWW something whiteboard. You know, if you Google online whiteboard, it'll come up, and there's tools attached so that you could, you know, demonstrate, work out math problems, or do some, you know, phonics work where you're writing things for the kids, just like you would be doing it in the classroom. And if you're recording with Screencastify, your little face can be in the corner while you're working, so the kids can see you talking about the work that you're doing, and it's like you're there in their house.
I was gonna say that's one of the cool things about it. So like it kind of has your like your little face on a corner, and you can move your little corner around so you don't feel like it has to be at a certain spot. Because I know sometimes when you certain videos that allow you, I mean, certain apps or whatever that allow you to record, sometimes you're like, oh man, I'm stuck right here, but I'm covering what I needed to cover. So it kind of moves around. So you're still visible. I'm trying to see if we can get this up and going so I could show you what I'm kind of talking about. So let me pick, I'll pick a book or whatever it is. And then I just wanted you to see it because it's really cool. And I mean, the kids liked it, and I did it with the intervention kids. So let's just pick a book. Raz Kids is another one that we'll talk more about if you need to, but it's really good about with all kinds of different helpful things that you can do with it. And so let's just do At the Lake. You see how it has projectable? You click on the projectable. So when you would open up your Screencastify and you go do that, you have a projectable. And so here are all the little things that you can use. You're saying, hey, let's sound this out. At the lake, or whatever, you know, just whatever it is that you want to do. As you're reading along or whatever it is, it's like it's pointing to the swimsuit. Oh, look at all the fish. Whatever language, whatever skill you're working on, you could use that. And here are all your little things that you can use with it. So that's one of the cool things about Reading A to Z that you can do. There's your lesson already for you. If you want to just do that, read aloud with them, and then you can ask questions at the end, because you could do. There's many things you could do with it. I'll show you one more. It loads up pretty decently. The comprehension, you see how it has projectable there. Whatever it says, name each picture with the students and have them cut apart. I mean, if you wanted to do something like that. I mean, you could do it in person, whatever you like. You could do a matching game, whatever it is, if you want to do with that. But I think there was one more thing that I kind of liked. Is a good one, I think. Here's a writing thing, like you're saying, let's work on our writing today. What are we gonna do? You could type in your sentence if you wanted. You see, good morning, whatever it is. There's your period or whatever it is, or if you want to use a highlighter for it and make your little periods here or exclamation points, whatever it is, however you want to do it. But this is part of your preparing your lesson, you know, like what do you want to use today? What's going to work for you today? And how can we use that? And again, because Reading A to Z goes from reading levels A to Z, they have a lot of science and social studies components. So that could be something that you can ask your students to work on with. They have other little comprehension things, like if you're working on maps, if you're working on sequencing, there's a lot. I would definitely encourage you to look at that for your video lessons.
Also, with your video lessons, first grade learned when we were planning over the fourth quarter, we like to do more hands-on and interactive, having literacy across the curriculum. So we did a lot of stories on Raz Kids or Movie Max for science and social studies to incorporate that aspect. And then they also had the little quiz or some type of student response tied to it that automatically graded it. So you didn't even have to grade it, it automatically graded it, and you could go back and reference what the students scored.
Anything else? Yeah, I agree. I think that's something that's helpful because, again, auto grading, you're doing a fun interactive lesson and you have a grade already for you.
Mr. Raquel, we have a question. Any ideas how to use the FNP Phonics curriculum online?
I haven't played with the phonics component too much. And I know they were updating a lot of things because I think they got a lot of feedback over all the, like all of us, like, oh my gosh, here we are, we're online learning. So I'm hoping that we'll have some options to go on before we get started. But
all those,
yes,
like all the guided reading books and things are available online.
They are available online, but I'm hoping that they do more.
They do more and give you more.
Yeah. So
but they have a lot of the reading stuff accessible online, but not as much as of the phonics.
I am going to write that because it's a good follow-up question. So I want to ask them that question. So we want to do F&P phonics. Let me do this. This is video lessons. And the question is F&P phonics online.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the materials are definitely available online.
Yeah,
how to make
things
that
like
interactive.
that. But
yeah, especially since it's such a big company, we have licensing for it. So yeah, great question. I'll definitely ask that one. Hopefully we can get a good answer for that. Okay, so we were talking about teacher recorded videos can be saved to your drive, but you can also create a YouTube channel. And Erin, I know you said you had a comment about that.
Yes. Also, I learned, having difficulty doing it from home for whatever reason on that given week, my videos were not saved for the drive for anything. So I reached out to Christy, and if you do a YouTube channel, make sure to tie it to your Kenner Discovery email so it's protected and everything, and just make sure when you are uploading a video from YouTube, you're using your school email, and also when you post a link in your plans, make sure you get the shareable link, or every time a child tries to log on and the parents are going to say they're blocked. So just really make sure that it's tied to your Kenner Discovery email and that you get the shareable link before posting to your plans.
And another thing we have on here is your technology support. We have an amazing team. You know that. I really want you to know you're supported, and you could just please reach out. That's the main thing we really want you to do. You can always reach out to Christy. She would love to help. You know that. You can reach out to Carrie and I. Your team leads have had experience, and then your rest of your colleagues. We all had to do it over the spring, but some of us are stronger in it. Some of us need more support in it. So feel free to reach out. You're not alone. This is, we want everybody to feel successful. We want everybody to feel like they know what they're doing. So please reach out and we could come out and help you with that. Again, it does not have to be bells and whistles. If you have the time and if you want to explore, if you want to get creative. I was just thinking about, like you said, Ms. Bender, like she wanted to do a Bitmoji classroom. So she did it. She said she spent like 4 hours on it, but she did it, like just on pictures and finding what she wants, just pictures, not even like adding links or anything to it. It was just finding how she wanted to do that. So again, that's the one cool thing, you have freedom to do however you think it's going to work. We do encourage you to work as a team. We really do want you to, figure out what's going to work best for all of y'all. And we obviously want it to be developmentally appropriate. But definitely you have freedom to do whatever it is that you want to do with it. Okay, so time for a poll. The question that's up here is, which of the following platforms are you excited to learn about? And of course, we can help you with that. So go ahead and pick your answer, please. We have Nearpod, Screencastify, OnCourse Classroom, Flipgrid.
Did they pick one?
Yeah, you gotta pick one.
No way.
How cool is that?
Very cool. Okay, here are our answers. So it looks like a lot of you are saying one of the ones y'all like is Nearpod. That was good. On-course classroom. Yeah, that one's we really want to do that one. Like obviously we need to because it's going to be all incorporated. Like I said, it doesn't seem as fluid as Google Classroom, it seems like, but it's there. It has options. So that's one of the good things. And Carrie knows it well. Amy Gilberti knows it pretty decently as well. So can't wait to play around with that. Nearpod is fun. There's more options on Nearpod. I can show you a little bit about that more towards the end. Just a brief overview, not going deep into it because Carrie will go deeper into it more so. But it gives you options like these that kids can do it. And then there's also, I'm doing it live in teacher pace because we're live and we're working together, but there's an option for student pace. So while they're at home, they can kind of go over it with their parent as a facilitator or whatever it is, but they can go back and forth. Right now, because we're doing it live and it's teacher pace, the only thing you can do is go back and you can add notes on it. If you wanted to add any notes or whatever it is, instead of not writing anything down, it'll all be saved this way. There's many different things that you can do with it. And like I said, we'll see what it is. It seems like y'all are pretty familiar with Flipgrid, but I'm kind of excited because there's new upgrades
There
with it.
There are some new upgrades and that I think are not available yet, but maybe they're in August, which is just a few days away. I was just watching something last night and there are some really cool things that they're doing, including incorporating an interactive whiteboard. Which I think is great because if we get real comfortable with a platform, it really is going to, at least for myself, I feel like having certain things in one spot where I don't have to go navigate between tabs on my computer and I can just kind of really get to know, 2 or 3 programs really, really well. Keeping it simple like that for yourself when you're just starting out on this journey of being online, I think it is not as overwhelming as it could be trying to manage all those tabs. And with that said, I did want to say something about On-Course Classroom. While I know a lot of us, myself included, when I heard that we would not be using Google Classroom, there was like a sigh that happened because I thought, oh my gosh, we just figured this out in lower school. Oh my gosh, these parents, spent time trying to get to know this, and we're going to change it on them again. But as a teacher, you are very much going to appreciate the ability to have grading post directly to your gradebook. You're going to have the opportunity for those platforms to communicate with each other. There are a lot of embedded activities and things in On-Course Classroom, like sorting activities, matching activities, responses, uploading video and audio, both you and the student. And even though we have the ability to do all of those things in Flipgrid, sometimes it might be better to, in certain situations, to keep everything within On-Course Classroom, just like I was just saying, for the ease of getting to know one platform or not having to navigate through different places all the time. So, I just wanted to put that out there. I hope that you guys are going to, at some point, either go to the On-Course Classroom training or make sure, if not, that you definitely go watch the recorded On-Course Classroom training, because what we saw with Christy was fantastic, but there's a lot more to look at through the lens of a lower school teacher.
Yes.
That we didn't really get to see yesterday. So I highly encourage you to do that, because we will all have to either use that as a way to kind of manage our online learning. And even if we're not a lead teacher, we are going to have to support our lead teachers by monitoring things and that. So we do all need to know how to navigate through it.
One other thing to piggyback off of Hillary is, in first grade, K, maybe 1 and maybe a little bit of 2, it was very user-friendly for the kids to navigate themselves on Flipgrid. So we did Flipgrid for our morning meeting. We did Flipgrid, for writing, if, they worked on a writing piece all week. Then we had the Flipgrid available on Fridays for them to read their writing piece. So the kids got to see each other. You got to share, have a group share like you would do realistically in a regular in-person classroom. It could be go to Flipgrid and record your favorite problem working out in math. It was just user-friendly. in first grade in particular. And was it complicated? Once the kids got familiar with recording their video for morning meeting, it just opened the door for other things that they could do independently and not always have to rely on an adult.
Agreed. So yeah, so we're excited about all these. We'll see how it looks like and what we're gonna do with it and how creative we can get to it. Okay, so this we're gonna kind of have this go to Erin and just kind of talk a little bit about what she felt was worked for her, what was some things that she learned, and what were some things that were that she kind of needed to feel she needed to work on as well.
So my perspective was always teaching a hands-on interactive lesson for all students. I do plan math for first grade, so I would do the math videos and share them amongst our team. I came to school, got my anchor charts, use any anchor charts, visual posters, or manipulatives that could be your teaching tool during your instruction. So tomorrow, if you're coming to our video lesson session, you'll see that like I taught time. So I came to school and got my Judy clock. And if you're teaching money, make sure you have those manipulatives at hand and consider your things that are available for you to teach that lesson. Incorporate any songs to go with your topic. So for example, I did incorporate, here's our objective for the day. Let's listen to this song together. Then I would do my teacher modeling. Use Flipgrid to ask any pre or post questions for your lesson. And also always use various platforms when teaching so you can reach all students. We would, do what I would model a lesson. They might go to MobyMax and answer questions on that lesson, but just try to incorporate various things that you're able to reach kids of all differences.
I think one of the things too that we ended up seeing for our SPED population, they were really thriving online. It was very cool to see and the students that you didn't think were very outgoing all of a sudden became YouTube stars for whatever reason.
Because a lot of them are very technology motivated. So yeah, they would see their teacher, they would see their friends, and it was fun to them and not necessarily the paper and pencil type.
So yeah, so that was definitely a cool thing to see them kind of just bloom from that. So just be mindful of that too when you're doing your instruction, if there's anything that they can follow along or anything that they can do. And then obviously try to have some type of like exit ticket, like Bruno was saying about just post lesson questions. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think y'all hit it.
Okay, so this is another cool feature from Nearpod. It's fill in the blanks. So there's the sentence. This is exactly from the last slide. And then you just kind of pick and drag the words to where you think it needs to go. So I'm going to go ahead and give you time to go ahead and do that and fill in your blanks. I'm going to ask Carrie. That's a great question because it's a Nearpod thing, but that'd be definitely really cool. So Nearpod, we're trying to find out. Fill in the blank. Pictures. When I was working on this, I don't think I saw that option, but that doesn't mean that there's not a way that you can do like another, and it shouldn't have to be the fill in the blank. It can be something else. So we can do that. Or also like On Course Classroom might have that because I feel like they had different options like that. So I'll ask that question too. Mm-hmm.
I definitely know that there are ways to put pictures and use pictures in responses in Nearpod but I don't know a whole lot about Nearpod, but in our experiences with presenters using it throughout the week, there were times, like on that little sticky note thing that we did at the beginning when you asked a question, people were putting pictures as their responses and not just typing words. So I do feel like there is a way. I don't know if this is
the best platform to do it, yeah.
With fill in the blank, but I think it can happen in some way.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do it together. Or y'all ready? I think we're ready, huh? Or no?
We need picture options for.
I get you.
Yeah, I think, like I said, if there's different types of options in Nearpod, so there's like open-ended question, there's a poll, there's this, whatever it is. This one is fill in the blank. So I don't know if there's like an open-ended question where you can do pictures instead. I'm not sure if it's that, or like I said, we can also do the on-course classroom option where you're doing fill in the blank with pictures. I mean, that could be an option.
You absolutely can do that on classroom.
Okay. So let's go ahead and answer this. Let's just work on it together again, like we would with kids, just to model. But using a variety of platforms when teaching will help reach all students.
And ELs and SPED here. So a lot of people want to know about the picture.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I think it'd be an awesome option. Anchor charts and incorporating songs are some ways to keep our students engaged in online learning. Flipgrid can be used to ask pre and post lesson questions. Oh, look, and then they gives you your how you did with it. So this one says you got 5 out of 5 correct answers. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Okay, so this one is for Miss Canale. Miss Canale did math intervention last year, so that was another different, interesting component. So she's going to definitely talk a little bit about that.
So as an interventionist last year, a math interventionist specifically, my role was interesting in that I tried my best to be as supportive as I could to the teachers in lower school that were teaching math. Every teacher teaches math. That wasn't the right thing to say, but I was trying to be supportive to the teachers so that we could both support the students. I didn't want to incorporate lots of lessons and additional work for intervention students to do on top of their classwork. So I tried my best to always be available to try and make sure that I was supporting the teachers, supporting the kids who needed that extra intervention support. But I always had work and kind of used MobyMax in that way and motivated them in different ways. And so some things that were my kind of takeaway and kind of what I had in my mind as I went into that was that like we talked about before, and some of this is kind of a review of things that we've mentioned, but like teaching in real time with natural pauses for think time is really important. A lot of the babies that I work with, they need lots of extra think time. Part of the reason that they are with me is because they don't have that confidence or that foundation right there ready to go that can think quickly. And in a small group setting in the regular classroom, lots of those children don't feel confident enough to share their ideas or answers because they don't know, they're not sure. And so it's even more important for those students who are struggling to have that pause and that think time. Asking students to pause the lesson, like I said, and work out a problem or write a response is important and something to think about, and definitely something that they need. Using student work samples and follow-up lessons to make learning more authentic. I did not have the opportunity to do this, but in reflecting on, how our spring semester went, this was definitely something that I want to make sure that I'm trying to do whenever possible. Like Raquel used Nearpod to pull up student responses today to kind of look at what people were thinking. And I don't know about anybody else. I didn't see who wrote that on my end. I viewing this as a quote unquote student who's viewing the lesson and not the presenter, so to speak. I couldn't see who was saying that. So that does keep some, things anonymous to some degree. And at the same time allows us to look at student work samples. And I know a lot of us don't want to think about evaluations and all of those sorts of things, but good, strong, effective teaching, that gets you higher up on the rubric when you are using student work samples and having students, reflect on and critique work. So I'm just, hoping to incorporate that myself. Using a variety of ways for students to show their knowledge. For example, it can get very redundant always saying, okay, this week, you're going to do your Flipgrid video for this reason in this way every week, every time. I mean, they'll get burned out just like with us and anything else. And so trying to keep it fresh in a variety, or even allowing them choice. Maybe some kids may not be comfortable videoing themselves all the time. So they may prefer to type or even write on paper and draw a picture and send it in. So just kind of keeping that in mind, either a variety of ways in the way that you expect everybody to do it, or maybe even in certain situations allowing students to have that choice so that they can pick what is motivating to them. And also something really important that we've been talking about in our virtual meetings is that even though as an online teacher, my students are never going to be in the classroom with me and are always going to be interacting with me online and digitally, we also do not expect, nor does Patty and Sharon want, online learning to be exclusively looking at a computer screen for 2 to 3 hours a day, or whatever the time frame is. They should still be doing authentic student work in some way off the screen, on a page, in a workbook, in a notebook, create outside on the sidewalk, taking pictures, whatever it is, they should still be doing that also. So, online platforms are great, but at the same time, we're not throwing all the other stuff, wonderful things to do in the classroom off to the wayside either. Utilizing digital platforms to create lessons that allow students to collaborate or do group work while socially distanced. So we'll have to think differently about grade level and student age and student abilities, but there are ways within, like off the top of my head in RobyMax alone, there is a way to assign skills and create games where there are teams and a competition where my team's versus this other team, and depending on how many we get right within this certain skill, it creates that team, that game, that teamwork aspect that the students are able to do. And I know there are lots of other ways to do it. That's just the one that's popping in my head, because we will not be able to do, group work and online, game time in the same way. So we have to get creative on how to do that. And then differentiation. That is what I do, even within intervention, there's different abilities within the same group, of struggling students, just like you guys have a wide variety of students with different needs in your classrooms. And so, considering differentiation, whether that means when you're doing a lesson, maybe there's 2 different lessons or 2 different versions of a lesson that you record, or, where you might be reading different texts. You may do this book for this group of children, and then you may do a different book for a different group of children, depending upon their needs, or your phonics lessons, or even math skills. You may have kids that are ready to be pushed to the next level and can do more work independently, and then you may have that group that needs to spend more time with the teacher. You may be able to meet with, let's say, 15 kids. 15 is not the right number. Let's say you may be able to meet with, 6 to 8 kids in your class that you can do a lesson with them, and then they can do independent work and show you, and you don't have to check in with them live and in person as much. And then you may have other babies that you need to see almost every day. So it just, it doesn't all have to be the same for everybody, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be that much extra work that you wouldn't already be doing in the classroom. Sometimes different activities, different expectations. As a 504 coordinator for main campus, I do also want to take this time to point out that accommodations and that extra time piece doesn't mean that they will have unlimited extra time. Sometimes the best way to manage that is to give them less work to do in a reasonable time frame. For example, if it's a page with 10 problems, you may only give that student 5 problems, because it's going to take them longer to do that. So let's pick the 5 that you want to do. Give them a little choice there, and so they don't have to do all of them. And There was something else I was going to say. I lost it.
Extended time. You said it doesn't have to be all day long. Shorten answers, modified assignments.
Yes, and also for the virtual students, and they have to have a dedicated learning coach that's going to be implementing those accommodations. There are going to be accommodations that students may need, or things that you may need to do for students that aren't necessarily worthy of being put on a 504 plan just for that purpose. It just may be what we need to do to meet the needs of the kids in an online world, and something that they're not completely used to. And like I said before, the experiences that we had in March through May is not, if we go online, it's not going to look like it did where they have unlimited time to complete activities, where they have, to the end of the week at midnight. At least not in the complete online. They will have deadlines that they need to meet, and there will be late work, and there will be grades attached. And so I don't know that we've gotten to the place where we have made those decisions for the whole school for in-person. However, I do know that we have gotten lots of feedback in terms of that being a challenge, and I'm sure that you all can, can be on the same page about that. That's hard to constantly always be accepting and re-accepting and re-accepting work. So that is part of the conversation, and just be aware that that may or may not look the same moving into online learning whenever we do have to do that as a school.
Thank you, Hillary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think it is time to climb. So we're at the end of our level 1. So it's going to be questions about what we've kind of been talking about throughout this lesson or this presentation or whatever. And so you have the option to go ahead and answer questions. So you got to pick your little person or whatever it is, and then questions are going to pop up, and you let's see if I can do, it says randomize answers. I'm not sure if that's the thing, but there we go. See if I did this one right. And if not, I can tell you what the questions were. I don't know why I won't let it go. All right, we're gonna do a live version then. So we had a couple of questions that we did for this. I'm gonna stop sharing and let me go find what our questions were. I don't know why I didn't do that. Okay, I know one of the questions we asked was true or false. Our video lessons are supposed to be 30 minutes long. If you know your answer, go ahead and type in your answer on the chat box. And okay, false. We got a lot of people saying false. Okay, good, good, good. Yes. We said, well, what is the answer? Anybody can unmute and tell us what it was and why. Yes. Yes, 10 to 15 or 10 to 12. Yes, because, we're trying to keep their attention span where they're able to pay attention. They're not rushing. We want them to grasp the concept. Yes. Let's see, what was the other one? YouTube is the only way that we can present our videos. True or false? Okay, can y'all name some of the ways that we can use, yeah, everybody said false, good. What are some ways that we can do that? Yeah, we could use Screencastify. We can definitely do YouTube. What are some other ways that kids can record and you can record things on? Flipgrid? And don't forget On-Course Classroom. It's going to allow us to do that now. So I want you to think about that because that's another option that they can do. Do you remember what was the other questions we had on there? I can't remember what was the other ones.
I think one was Flipgrid's only purpose is to do morning meeting.
Oh yeah, is Flipgrid's only purpose to do morning meeting? Correct. No, there's other ways we could, what are some ways that you have used Flipgrid? Reading a completed writing prompt. Yeah, that was one of the things that we really liked. We also did readers theater in first grade. That was a good option. Haley did her Friday dance, free dance Fridays, what it was. What was the other ones that y'all did? There was other things that y'all did.
I had a standing Flipgrid that, the students each
Author's
week
chair.
could tell me either a math concept that they had learned with their, classroom teacher or something they had practiced on in Moby Max, like what new math learning, it was kind of like more of a reflection piece.
Okay, here's another one. You should only use one platform during a lesson. True or false? I'll say the question again. You true or false? Should you only use one platform during a lesson? Yeah. How can I kick it?
Hey, Raquel, can I talk instead of type?
Sure.
Okay, it's a lot to type. So it's a little bit tricky because I'm thinking of Nearpod. Like Nearpod, you can embed like a Screencastify video. You can add a Flipgrid to it. So, even though Nearpod is one platform, would it be too much if there's all these different platforms within that one platform?
I don't think it would be too much. And I think tomorrow, Hillary and Aaron are going to talk about how they kind of navigated through all that. But no, it should not. Obviously, I mean, I can't imagine you doing like 10 platforms at once, but
And definitely not all at once.
Yeah.
You know yourself and you know what you're comfortable with, but also keep it in the back of your mind. What are your students going to be comfortable with? These kids are getting one-to-one computers, which they've never had in their hands before.
And some kids don't even have one at home.
Some kids don't have one at home. Some kids are using devices at home that are touch screens. These will not be touch screens. There's all sorts of learning curves that come with the technology that are being put in their hands. There may be some kids who just take it and open it and can teach us things. So, she's probably in the next session, just coming out. In any case, just kind of keep it in mind, not just your comfort level, but what you're going to be asking the kids to do and how much it is for them to manage, coming out the gate to start. So I think that you can definitely incorporate those things, and you should when you're ready. And, it is possible. So the answer to the question was no.
yes,
False, that you definitely can incorporate
Yes.
multiple platforms into a lesson.
Okay, it's 9:45 right now. We can have a couple minutes left if you have any questions or anything else. But if you're good with that, tomorrow's level 2, and Hillary and Aaron are going to be talking a little bit about. Y'all going to be doing some lesson critiquing and just kind of reviewing and kind of just really thinking about going a little bit deeper about like lessons that we have created and like how do we make it better, how do we improve it.
Exactly, and a lot of this hopefully discussion. Not in this fancy Nearpod format because Aaron and I need to learn more about it. And so, but in using the chat and other things to be able to have you share with us those questions, those comments, what has worked for you and that kind of collaborative environment tomorrow. Hopefully we can incorporate some of that as well.
Y'all are amazing. Please, if you have any questions, let us know. Truman, this is for kindergarten through fourth grade video lessons. Kindergarten to fourth grade video
There's
lessons.
one for 5 through 12.
Yes, there's one for 5 through 12. Okay, I'll ask the question about FMP Phonics online and if we can use it interactively, and then I'll ask the question about Nearpod about using pictures as fill in the blanks.
And we'll get those answers.
Yeah, we'll try to get answers, because if not Nearpod, for sure, probably on Course Classroom, so we'll definitely do that. If there's any other questions, any other comments, let us know. And like I said, tomorrow we look forward to it, because just kind of critiquing, because like we've all created lessons, and how do we make it better? How can we improve it? Don't forget to do your attendance link again. That's the video.
I'll post it again.
And I think that was it. And you got the Nearpod stuff. So yes. Bruno just got you the form for attendance. Thank y'all very much. I appreciate y'all. And of course, reach out if y'all need anything.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good day.
Have a good day. I'm going to go ahead and log off, and I'm going to relog back in for the other group B coming for the same video lesson. Thank y'all.
That was Todd that I let in. He had to do counter.